Good evening, everybody. Matt Derrick with Chiefs Digest here. And another Tuesday night. I see we've already got some people who have joined into the conversation. Sharon, Nikki, Chris already have some questions in here. So we are ready to go. If anybody was on earlier today, I talked with Sterling Holmes over at Arrowhead Addict on their podcast this afternoon. I don't normally get a chance to do that because normally I'm talking at that time with Locked On Chiefs, but this week with Ryan and Chris, I'm talking to them Thursday after OTAs are done this week. And Sterling's a good friend of mine and asked me if I'd been able to do it. And I hadn't been able to do him for his show for a long time because they do that live segment on Tuesdays at 3, and I always have a conflict. So if any of you double dip and were there earlier and here now, I truly appreciate it. Just a few things I think to talk about off the top, and then I'm going to get straight into your questions. And Nick is planning on joining us a little bit later as well. We'll get an update on how the grocery shopping went, or if it still has to be done, but we'll find out. I'm powered with some Milo's iced tea tonight, so maybe I'll be a little bit more jacked up than usual. Who knows? But I think obviously the big thing that's, and I don't know if anybody's going to have any questions about it. We don't know a whole lot right now, but Kansas, it appears, is going to be calling a special session. The governor's going to be calling a special session in a couple of weeks to discuss a star bond package for luring the Kansas City Chiefs across the state line over into Kansas. They've got some heavy hitters behind this. I saw the list of the lobbyists that have been signed up on this, and it's definitely a who's who of Kansas lobbyists that work in the state capitol and work in Topeka. So they've got some heavyweights behind this, and we'll see what happens. I mean, there's a lot of details. I mean, and it's they're at least getting the funding figured out. I know there's people who will tell you that the video and the renderings and all of that came out a couple of weeks ago were kind of just imaginary. It was just a flight of fancy. It was done independently of the Chiefs. I'm not 100% sold on that. So I think that obviously plans for luring the Chiefs are a little bit further ahead than probably is known publicly. And that's a little bit of speculation on my part. It's informed speculation. I'll give you that. But getting the funding would be is the first big source. And Kansas, with their star bonds, has an ability to address funding a little bit differently than you can do it in Missouri, certainly differently than Jackson County and Kansas City, Missouri would be going about doing it. So it's going to be interesting. I mean, I think that definitely this is a real deal. I mean, I think I'm not saying it's a foregone conclusion, but I think it's more than likely the Chiefs are going to be going across the state line. And I think it's probably pretty telling that this effort today was exclusively Chiefs, scoop and score. Everything's exclusively Chiefs. I don't think that Kansas has the Royals on their radar right now. I think the Royals are still looking at downtown. Doesn't necessarily preclude that there's some locations that might appeal to the Royals, but I think that's becoming a very different conversation. It doesn't mean that Kansas couldn't necessarily get into the Royals discussion at some point, but I think landing the Chiefs is their number one priority, and they're making the big pitch, and Missouri is behind the eight ball. So Kansas is going to be able to put together a proposal to lure the Chiefs long before Missouri is frankly going to be able to get out of bed the way it looks right now. So I think the Chiefs are going to end up in Missouri and Kansas. You know, how long it's going to take. I mean, I think you probably are looking at easily into 2030. I mean, the Chiefs are tied into their lease and through the 2030 season at Arrowhead. So I think that 2031, 2032 is probably what you're looking at. I mean, they could leave early, of course, and I'm getting the cart before the horse completely, but I just think it's pretty much a foregone conclusion at this point that the Chiefs are going to end up in Kansas. As a Missouri voter and a lifelong Missouri resident, I'm not crazy about it, but I mean, as long as they stay in the Metro, that's the number one thing. And that's the one thing I think that Chiefs fans can rest assured. I mean, don't worry about any of the scare tactics, any things of this nature that you might hear. I mean, that some people are going to throw out there. Chiefs are not moving Kansas City. I think you'd probably have to have 2 more ballot measures fail before the Chiefs left Kansas City. The NFL does not want what is right now one of their 2 marquee franchises relocating. That would not be a good look for the league. So and Kansas is going to put together a real proposal. So that's something the Chiefs want. So they'll get behind it, and I think it'll be a much better proposal than the one that they had before voters in April. So we'll see what happens. And hey, Brandon, I don't know. I mean, with the chances the Royals move, I think there's obviously much better chances that the Royals stay in Missouri, because I just don't know if there's a lot of interest in the Kansas side of getting them over there. Obviously, the Chiefs are their number one priority. Could it be that Missouri falls asleep at the switch, Kansas gets the Chiefs done, and the Royals are still available, a free agent, and they're able to get that done too? Yeah, it's possible. I mean, there's still a lot that has to happen. So, but it's going to be easier for Kansas to get it done than it was on the Missouri side with Jackson County. And Missouri, without legalized gambling, without some of the tools that Kansas has, and just the political environment in Missouri, I just don't see the Chiefs having much of a chance to stay in Missouri. So it's what it is, but just my 2 cents for now. And I'm sure there'll be more developments in the next couple of weeks. We will see. On the field, not a whole lot of developments. The media is going to be back on the field on Thursday for the final OTA practice. And then we get to be there for all 3 days of minicamp next week. Chiefs usually have some of that opened up to season ticket members as well. So we'll see if they do that again this year. I haven't seen it. Maybe some of you who are season ticket members can tell me if you've seen the invitations. I'll also be curious. I know I had someone who sent me the text message from Scoop and Score that is being sent out. So I don't know how selective of an audience that's going to, but be curious if any of you have seen that, the text message that went out today. Probably, I'm assuming, some emails as well. And probably have to be on the Kansas side to see it, have at least a 913 number. I'm just curious. We will see. And I know I see a couple of people here who were over at the Arrowhead Attic, Luttrell, and I know Jesus was over there. If there was anybody else that was over with the live discussion with Sterling this afternoon I missed, I apologize, but good to see you. And I also wanted to say that some of you who followed me for a while has been, especially here on the YouTube channel, I'm not the world's most extroverted person. Me getting into this has been kind of dragging my feet a little bit. I'm obviously much more comfortable. I was a broadcast major in college, so you think I'd be much more comfortable with this than I am. It's much more about confidence and self-awareness than anything else that makes me a little introverted on putting myself out there, and losing weight, like I told you, has certainly helped me as far as having a little bit more confidence goes. But I'm not the world's most, I don't know if I'm necessarily the most approachable person in the world. I'm a little introverted. But every once in a while, some of you who see me in public will come up and say, hi. That is absolutely cool. Feel free to do that. I want to give a shout out. There was Joshua and Eric were a couple of people I've run into the last few weeks who, fans here on the YouTube channel, or follow me at Chiefs Digest, or listen to 41 is the Mic. I had a 41 is the Mic fan and Joshua a couple of weeks ago come up, and that was awesome to hear. Anybody wants to come up to me and tell me how great Nick is, I'm all for that. But if you see me feel free to talk to me. I need to do more of that. So, hey, if you see me and you want to ask a question or just say hi, I'm giving everybody carte blanche. I've enjoyed talking to a bunch of people who've done that in the past, and I'm fortunate that some of you have recognized me in public. So hey, if you do that, would love to talk to you. So I do appreciate that. I appreciate all of the support. You are all the best. We'll get straight into it. Sharon was the first member with a question. Heard from credible local KC source that Isaiah Pacheco has lost weight and BJ Thompson has gained weight. Confirm. Thoughts? Yeah, Sharon, this is right now, it's just from watching them, but I would say that Pacheco, well, obviously, one, Pacheco's in much better shape than he was at this time last year, because remember, he was coming off both the surgeries. It really couldn't do anything last year. So he wasn't even on the field doing anything of that nature. And he's definitely, to me, looks like he's lighter than he was in training camp last year. How much he's changed, we haven't got a chance to talk to him yet. Hoping that might be before training camp. Don't know that it will be on Thursday. Maybe we'll get a chance to talk to him during the minicamp next week. Sometimes Isaiah doesn't go to the podium a ton because he's a little introverted too, so doesn't always do the podium. Sometimes we are more likely to get him in his locker one-on-ones and those kind of things. So I'm hoping we see him before training camp so we can find out a little bit about his weight and where he's at. But I will say, I mean, I think he definitely looks trimmer than he did during training camp last year when he got in there. And like I said, I mean, the fact that he's out there right now and moving around and looking pretty good this time of year is great considering where he was last year. So I think that's fantastic. And he looks in great shape. So like I said, I don't have any firm numbers to be able to tell you that he's definitely lost weight or where he's playing at right now, but I think he looks really good. Absolutely. He does look thinner than he did during camp last year. And regarding BJ Thompson, yeah, I mean, I do. I think looks like he has gained some weight. He's still a long, lean guy. So it's a little bit hard to judge, but he does. He looks like he's bulked up a little bit. That was definitely the plan last year. And for the offseason was just to put a little bit more muscle and meat on that frame. I think he can definitely handle it. Looks like he's moving around pretty well. He's been kind of in the second group as far as rotation goes. So, and this time of year, as Nick points out repeatedly, and will, I'm sure, come up again tonight, offensive and defensive line, you can't tell anything this time of year until the pads come on, as far as just, where they are at. Is he moving around well? Absolutely. So, and that was one of the things I was watching for, was just to see if he did look a little, beefier than last year. And he does. I mean, he is still pretty trim. So I don't think there's any concerns there as far as, being out of shape. He definitely doesn't look that. I mean, he definitely still has that look. I think he's moving around pretty well. So I think that's a good sign all around for him. Here I am even looking ahead. I'm trying to do two things at once here and multitask. And Luttrell, can you give us permission to talk to Nick too? Nick will be here in a little bit. Brenda, nice to see you as well. Looking to see if there was any other member questions that we had before we just started kind of going down the line. Remember, if you're a member or you do a super chat, you can absolutely move to the top. Chris, when will the Chiefs and other NFL teams merge the kicker and punter into a single roster spot? It's something I've thought about, and I don't know when the last time we've asked Dave Tobe about it. I mean, I think that one is that, hey, you want both those positions to be really, really good at what they do. And it's obvious that, it's a little bit different muscle skill. So, and I know in college, hey, there's kickers who have done it effectively. I mean, Matt Araiza was a great kicker before they turned him into a punter, and now he's just strict punter. I see why teams do it. I mean, I see why specialization is there, because it is like I said, it is a little bit different muscle memory. It's a different approach, different style. There are probably some kickers who are really good at one and not good at the other. There's a lot of kickers who are good at both. I mean, and but that's the thing, is that, I mean, I've seen from watching even like a Dustin Colquitt kickoff. I mean, if he had to kick field goals just because he never did it, I mean, that would look rough. Watching Harrison Butker punt because he never does it looks rough. But it's one of those things that I'm wondering if it's just going to take the right player to come along and a team to decide that the roster spot's that integral to them. I'm almost surprised that, maybe a team doesn't have a punter just on the practice squad. Maybe that would be the first approach to it. But I mean, at the same time, I mean, you do want those two positions. You don't want them to just be replacement level players. You're hoping to have somebody better than that at both those spots. Somebody who, and certainly that there's a chemistry there. I mean, and I'm not saying this is a good reason, but hey, if you don't have a kicker and a punter, you're going to have somebody else hold. well, that's going to hurt your chemistry. I mean, one of the great reasons why teams like having the punter hold is that they usually have the punter. The punter doesn't get hurt, and the punter is always consistent. So you have the long snapper, the punter, the kicker work together, and there's at least consistency. It's not a case where if you've got a quarterback or a wide receiver or somebody else, it's a holder, they get hurt. They can't work with special teams all the time because they've got to work on their own positions, and then they got to come over and work and practice. I mean, I get it. So you're Chris. I mean, I do get it, but I obviously roster spots are important. I mean, if they're going to stick at 53, which that's a whole other conversation. I mean, we had talked about a couple of weeks ago. I mean, I think that the players should absolutely get more active roster spots on game day and all 53 players be able to play. If you did that, I mean, it's certainly much easier to continue to carry a kicker and a punter. I'd be up for it. I mean, but I do see why teams do it the way they do it now, as far as having the specialization and having both those positions be better than they are and better than they would be if you had a player who did both of them. I mean, I think there's just inevitably probably would be a little bit of a letdown. I mean, if Harrison Butker had to practice punting, hey, how much less would he be of a place kicker? Hey, if it's 3%, teams want the 3%. And same thing with their punter. I mean, if he's punting and he's 95% of what Tommy Townsend was, that's pretty good. But teams would say we want the full Tommy Townsend. So, like I said, I get it, but I could see the other side of it too. Mango, do you think both Kadarius Toney and Sky Moore will make the roster? Rather have Nico Remigio take one of their spots? I mean, it really is too early to tell. Obviously, right now we're in a vacuum, no injuries, none of that happens yet. I haven't seen Kadarius Toney yet this year, so I don't know where he's at. He could be looking fantastic. Maybe he's been working on the jugs machine and doing drills all off season, and his hands are 100% better than they were last year. Maybe he could be in perfect shape. Obviously, the knee injury I think really hurt him last year. Hurt his timing, hurt his confidence. There was a lot. You rebuild Kadarius Toney this offseason and get his head in the right place, he can be a different player. So I don't know which Kadarius Toney we're going to see. I don't know if we'll see him next week in the minicamp. It is mandatory, but doesn't mean the veterans haven't skipped it before. We'll see if he is there. Sky has been working all through OTAs, so we expect to see him next week. Let's see what happens. I mean, we really didn't even get the chance to see Remigio for the most part, before he got hurt last year, even in preseason games. So let's see. I mean, Remigio's looked really good, at least in the two practices that have been open to us this off season. We're going to get 4 more practices over the next 12 days. So that's going to be a chance to get a really good look at him. Let's see what happens. And then by all means, let's get the training camp. I mean, right now I had Kadarius Toney and Sky Moore in my second tier of receivers. There's the first tier, which are the players that I think are 90% to make the team plus, which, would be your Hollywood Brown, Rashee Rice, Xavier Worthy, and Justin Watson. And then that second tier, and there's, and the question for me was Nico Remigio at the bottom of tier 2, or was he at the top of tier 3 heading into training camp? Right now, I've got him in tier 2. I mean, I would put him in that conversation. So he's in that conversation with Kadarius, with Sky, with Justin Ross. So that's a competitive group. Are 8 receivers going to make this team? No. There's going to be at least 1 or 2 of those players who don't. So who it's going to be a good fight. I think they're all right now very, very competitive. So would not surprise me at all if any 2 of those players could make it. And honestly, I mean, there's other guys in camp as well. They can absolutely make a bid for the team. A lot of people didn't necessarily have Amir Smith-Marset moving up last year and making the team, but he did a good job. He almost he went for the trade and having that opportunity to move him. Maybe he does make the team. So a lot of competition there. I think that's good. And the fact that, I was having this conversation, with Sterling a little bit earlier, we're talking about Kadarius and Sky competing for maybe the last 2 spots on this team. A year ago, they were on team. There was no competition about it. So I think that speaks to the depth of this room and the additions that this team has made, that they're in a little bit better shape. Luttrell, curious, who is the low man on the totem pole in the wide receiver room, Sky or Tony? Tony gets all the high praise. They have Sky locked up with a rookie contract longer. Yeah, I mean, Tony's got the 1 year left. Sky's got 2 years left. I mean, that's not significant. And, and I think if I'm not mistaken, I think Tony rather has at least more guaranteed money remaining. I think everything that's on Sky's contract that would hit the salary cap was signing bonus. I'm not sure that he has any guaranteed money left remaining as far as base salary goes or bonuses go. But for this year, everything that's Tony's got, which is what, 2 points. I used to have it off the top of my head, 2.75, 2.85. That's guaranteed. So you're going to be on the hook for that no matter whether he's on the team or not. And that's not necessarily a reason to keep a player who is not as good as somebody else, but it's a factor. And if it's a tie, I mean, you got two players who are both competitive, and one you can get onto the practice squad at no cost, and the other one is Kadarius Toney, and you're going to have to eat his money if you don't keep him on the roster. Well, Ty's going to go to him. So now, and I can tell you this from talking to everyone that I have talked to in the Chiefs organization, whether it's coaching staff, front office, you name it. If they're on the football side, they are lockstep 100% behind Kadarius Toney. Now, will they tell you that he just requires a little bit different management, that he's a different kind of cat? Yes, absolutely. I mean, he is. I mean, and I think you saw that last year. I mean, so many of his problems, I think, were confidence, and and his confidence can get shaken. So what they're trying to do this offseason is rebuild him a little bit, rebuild his confidence, get him out there so that when he does come in, he's 100%, he's feeling good. We don't know if there's been anything else this offseason, if he had to have a second surgery on that knee. I don't know if that's the reason why he hasn't been out there. Andy Reid has not given us any updates with injuries. So and some player camps are more quiet than others about those kind of things. So we wouldn't necessarily know. And that's about as close you're going to see me speculating. And that is just even thinking off the top of the head. That is for reasons why Kadarius wouldn't be at the voluntary portion. It could just be he didn't want to be there. I mean, it's voluntary for a reason. So there could be a lot of reasons. But it's hard to tell, Luttrell. I mean, like I said, that's the way I see the tiers right now. I mean, and it's hard to tell and know exactly where where Kadarius is, because he hasn't been there. So I can't really tell you where he is in the rotation. I mean, I can tell you where Sky is, and he would fit in exactly like I rattled it off of my tiers. I mean, you've got your top four guys who are going to be getting most of the reps. There's another tier guys who are going to be getting the next amount of reps, and Sky is in that category. Remigio has been in that category. Chiefs have been giving a lot of players different opportunities. So we'll see. It's a little hard for me to be able to slot Kadarius other than just knowing what the Chiefs think of him, because we haven't seen him yet. So let's see what happens. Let's get to training camp, and then we'll get a better idea. But that's at least the way I see it right now. I mean, I think there's that second tier that's going to be maybe 4 or 5 players. It's going to be competing for probably 2 spots, maybe 3. It's going to be a good competition. So get to training camp and watch it. Sharon Upco. Oh my goodness, I love this. I'm gonna have to share that for Nick when he gets in here. Beautiful usage of an invention of the phrase there, Sharon. Kudos to you. But predictions for Deneric Prince, if not DP, then who's number 3 running backs? That's also going to be a great question, and it's one that's, we're all assuming, and I'm kind of in that category too, of assuming that Clyde is going to be the number 2 running back when he gets in. There's another guy who hasn't been out there for OTAs. I would assume that he might be going through nursing school, and that might be the reason why he's been missing OTAs. No big one there. I mean, he's obviously been in the system long enough. He's going to be okay. I wouldn't worry me for a veteran like that and for a running back. And honestly, I mean, the Chiefs have a lot of running backs that they want to get a look at. So the fact that the Clyde's not there doesn't bother me. The fact that Isaiah Pacheco is there to be able to get all the work that he wants right now, and at least just what he needs to get ready for the season is so much of an upgrade from last year. He doesn't have to get all the reps, but just keeping in shape, and so he's going to be in a better spot than he was entering camp last year is important. But then you've got a group of, let's go off. I mean, Deneric Prince, I would say, both from just being here last year and from just his play, would be headline of the next group in that number 3 spot. I think Hassan Hall has absolutely, looked really good. He's had a great offseason program. I mean, I think he struggled a little bit when he first got here, was my impression. But he has really turned it around the last few weeks and looked really strong. So I think, he's looked good. He moves really well. I think he's in that conversation. Nick is a big fan of Amani Bailey, and I am as well. I think he has looked pretty good, so I think he's in that conversation. And Luis Rees-Zammit has to be part of that. And then it's the question of who, if he makes the team, is it going to be him as a 4th running back? Is he just a utility player, a return specialist? How do you think of him? And I mean, obviously, if you're keeping a 4th running back, then that's going to affect tight ends, wide receivers. You got some tough decisions there to make, and I think Chiefs are going to have some tough ones. I would say right now, penciled in, I think if you were making out the depth chart right now, and I am going to be making out a depth chart here in the next 10 days, even though I know Nick will chastise me a little bit, but not much, because Nick's employers might ask him to do a depth chart too. So, but I will have a depth chart, and right now I pencil Deneric Prince in at number 3. So, you're right, Upco until the pads come on. But that's where I would see it. I mean, I think that's reflective of at least what we're seeing in OTAs as those of you who know, I mean, the Chiefs have their reporting guidelines that there's things that we are not supposed to report on, and depth charts are one of them this time of year since they're closed practices. But I don't think that there's any surprise in saying that, hey, if you look at, who's a returner on this team and who the team is confident in, who they want to get a look at, Deneric Prince is at the top of that list. So I think that's a fairly safe thing to say. And Nick is going to be in here in a minute. He is in the green room now, so I'm just going to wait for him to give me the thumbs up before I bring him in, because I owe that to Nick. So we'll see him here in a couple of minutes. But let's see. I think Brandon, we talked about the Royals. Oh, Cody, if Missouri would get its act together and legalize sports betting, that'd be huge. That would be huge. I mean, that's a big deal about why that the Chiefs, I mean, if they end up on the Kansas side, I mean, betting's going to be a reason. Sports betting is absolutely going to be a reason, because it's going to be incorporated in the stadium and what they do. So it is a big deal. Mitchell, why not Cam Akers or Michael Thomas for cheap? If they are healthy, can't they help? I mean, for me in particular with Michael Thomas, I think if he's healthy is the question. I'm just not sure there's a whole lot left in the tank with Michael Thomas. And, and obviously you get into the fit, the offense, you get into what does he want? Where would he be in this team? I mean, if you're the Chiefs, you're not only trying to win right now, but you're building for the long term too. So if you're the Chiefs, you don't want to necessarily somebody coming in here and taking reps away from Xavier Worthy or Rashee Rice. So, at best, I think a Michael Thomas would be a number 4 receiver for this team. And that's at best. I mean, I think there's a chance that, he might get beat out by somebody else. I mean, he might be less than that. Does Michael Thomas want to come in and be the number 5 receiver for a team? I don't know. I mean, maybe he does. Maybe he wants to win a ring, and that's a bigger deal to him. I don't know. He hasn't told us. I've never talked to him. I've never met Michael Thomas. Doesn't have any statements out there that I'm aware of. So, yeah, I mean, we don't know. We really don't know what he's looking for, what he wants. So without that, I don't have a good sense of where he's at and what he would be interested in. Nick, I had to jump away, so if you gave me the thumbs up, I did miss it. So, but Still did not want to add you until I got the shake off. So we'll wait a few more minutes. But I mean, that's where at least I come down with Michael Thomas. I just don't know about the fit. I mean, on paper, is it a good idea? Yeah, but when you consider the age, when you consider all the other factors, I'm just not sure. It's a great fit. I mean, and if he wanted to be here, it's kind of one of those things. I mean, if Michael Thomas wanted to be Kansas City Chief, I think hey, his agent knows the number. He can say, hey, Brett, Michael wants to be a Kansas City Chief. Can we make it happen? So if that's not happening, then I'm guessing that, hey, and if Michael's in, if Thomas wants the most money possible, I don't begrudge him with that. It's a business. Do what you got to do. So Cam Akers that's a different one. I mean, I hadn't really thought about it and had his name associated with the Chiefs. Looking at his status there, and trying to remember. I'm just double check and make sure that he wasn't coming off an injury or anything from last year. I mean, he has the Achilles injury, so that's the reason why that would be the issue for him. Yeah, I would imagine that he is probably not 100% at this point. I haven't seen his workouts or any issues right there, but yeah, Achilles, even for a young guy like that, would scare me off. I would be interested in Cam Akers in 2025. I mean, if was a sign and stash, I mean, his injury was midway through the season. He had the surgery, from what I just saw, was in November. So, I mean, he could wipe out his entire season. I mean, if he wanted to sign a 2-year deal, I don't know if he would be interested in that. I'm sure he wants to get on the field as quickly as possible. But yeah, for a team that wants a three-peat, I would be looking for the health would be the issue for me, and whether he would be ready to go, at some point during the season. That would be the tough thing. And with Achilles injuries, I mean, and these are true for everybody. And it's true for sometimes with ACLs, with Najee Johnson. I'm hoping it's not going to be an issue with Brian Cook. It certainly could be with a Joe Tooney coming off of his injury. But, it's sometimes, hey, you can get back on the field in a year, but are you yourself yet? And most of the guys I talk to will always tell you year 2 is when they are much more comfortable, that they're much more settled in. So that would be the concern for me, is that, hey, if you did bring in a Cam Akers this year, you're getting a guy coming off an injury, not going to be ready to get on the field until maybe the second half of the season, and then he's not going to be Cam Akers yet. So that would be my concern. And our friend Nick is ready.
Hi there, Matt. So for those people that turn off whenever they see me come on, as I mentioned in the comment section, great news. The rest of your night is free now.
I think they're just being troublemakers and sarcastic, Nick. But
hey, the world doesn't go around without trolls.
I'll ask you, because we've talked about Michael Thomas before. We kind of have covered that one. Cam Akers, that Mitchell mentioned, is a new name, but coming off the Achilles injury, would you have any interest in Cam Akers for this team?
Like you said, coming off the Achilles, he didn't look the same. He didn't have the same explosiveness, and that's part of the reason that he's available right now. So yeah, I mean, before it, he had a little bit, but at this current time, he's not the same player he was before. And then in terms of Michael Thomas there, I mean, with Michael Thomas, one, it would have to be a number that the Chiefs were comfortable with. And two, they would want to have to give away reps right now, which are key for the younger guys to be able to get during OTAs and minicamp. So you don't really need veterans that have been either in your system or have been in the league 6, 7, 8 years to really be involved every single day in the system and the ins and outs of it. They know how to approach it and how to get ready. But for those younger guys that are in their first, second, and third year, OTAs and minicamp are a lot bigger than people give them credit for, just simply for knowing where to go, where you need to be, communicate with your teammates, and all that type of stuff. So, I mean, having all that combined is really, really important for guys that are essentially trying to get to their pension year 4.
Yep. And Nick, there are plenty of people who are excited, and most importantly, it's the members who are excited because Harold is excited, Brenda's excited. We got plenty of people who are excited to have you here.
Hold on, Matt. I got a guy who I wanted to say something.
You can't. It's every foot pads on. I mean, guys look different with shorts until they go.
Tom Melvin.
Tom Melvin.
Let you know, until a 26-year NFL veteran. Let you know, until the pads come on, they have no idea, and they coach in the NFL.
Well, I talked about this question before you got here because Sharon's a member here, so she moved up to the top. But Upco, until the pads come on, Nick, that's going on. That needs to go on a shirt.
Dude, you want to make a lot of shirts, man.
I need to make a lot of shirts, but now if we can,
like I made money over here.
I mean, if we can just say Upco, I mean, that's a lot shorter than until the pads come on. So we got a shorthand now.
Do you even Upco, bro?
We have got a shorthand now.
But that's Sharon's trademark technically, because she came up with that. She created that.
No! I mean, if we put it on a shirt, Sharon, you're getting a cut. I mean, you're getting an equal cut.
We are not those type of people that just take ideas and run away with them. That is all Sharon, and she has documented proof. This is the receipt, unless this gets deleted, which it never will.
Luttrell saw Luttrell over when I was over with Sterling earlier today. So thank you for double dipping, Luttrell. Good to see you. What is the incentive for the Chiefs to stay in Missouri? Money wise, I don't know what they would stay in Missouri, but I want them to stay. I'm Missouri. Like I said, I'm a Missouri resident, Missouri voter. All of that. I would like for the Chiefs to stay. But right now, I mean, Missouri doesn't even have a package or an offer or the hint of an offer for the Chiefs to stay. And it's technically still a while out, but I mean, Chiefs obviously would like to have something done sooner than later. Things don't necessarily, I mean, just because, maybe this is going to go incredibly quickly, Nick. I mean, maybe the Kansas legislature will have their special session. They'll get a package together, and in 4 weeks from now, we're talking about the Chiefs are going to Johnson County or Wyandotte County in 2030. I don't know, but it's if the Chiefs were to ask me right now, which they won't because I have no power or say, but if Mark Donovan would say, "Hey Matt, why would I stay in Missouri right now?" I can't give him a reason because Missouri hasn't done anything.
Well, it's just like in free agency. You let everybody court you. You let everybody put the money out there. And then you go back to the place you're already established at. And you're like, hey, these people are offering this. These people are offering that. Do you want to match that? And also, can you give us tax breaks here, here, and here? And then you go from there. So right now, you're out there creating leverage in any way, shape, or form. The Super Bowls help. And having a pamphlet or something that reminds you how much you get from players' taxes and from the team as well, or from concerts there, things of that nature. You magically put that out publicly at some point and let Jackson County people know what type of money they'd be losing in their county over time, or the state of Missouri in general. Then you put those together behind the scenes and you put those out there. So, I mean, it's like Justin Reed, who just won the chess match or the chess tournament last week. It's all a game of chess. So you're doing this, and each person's counteracting. So look, I mean, we're used to being in an on-demand world where we expect answers immediately, and we want analysis immediately, and we want this and we want that immediately. But like I've said here many times before, when it comes to things, not everything's a Law and Order or TV show. It doesn't just get wrapped up in a 60-minute thing. So I mean, there's times where things are going to take years to get together, and there's things that are going to take, the Chiefs franchise had to crumble over a 4-year span to get Andy Reid, and then to get, 6 years later to get Patrick Mahomes and to get to this level. Some of the best things take time to put together, so you just got to let it work itself out.
Yeah, and Nikki's question, and Nikki, appreciate you for listening to the pod earlier with Sterling and coming here too. I mean, I think Nikki's point here, is what could there be of an offer? What could the Missouri do to try and get the Chiefs to stay at Arrowhead? What could Kansas City do? What could Jackson County do? I mean, part of the problem is, to your free agency, analogy, Kansas has been grooming their offer for quite a while. I mean, because they put together the fund that's been putting money away. It's part of the gambling, the legalized sports betting money that's been coming in. They've been putting it into a fund to attract a professional team to Kansas. So they have got already a little bit of resources put away. Obviously, they've got a little bit of a plan. They've got in theory, a site in mind, but legalized gambling is a big part of it. It means legalized sports betting, Nick, is a huge part. And that's the thing. I mean, Kansas has done what they needed to do over the last few years to make themselves a potential suitor. And that's where I mean, even if, to your free agent analogy, even if the Chiefs come back to Missouri, I mean, you're almost betting on just the idea of, okay, well, Missouri's going to have to ask for the Chiefs to wait until maybe next May to see if they can finally get sports gambling, sports betting legalized in Missouri. I mean, I think there's a reasonable chance that the way that Kansas has gone about things, I mean, even if it takes a few months to get a deal done, Kansas can get this sealed up before Missouri gets out of bed. And I mean, we've seen that happen before. Team sits back and says, "Hey, you know what? Go out and get yourself a better offer." Sometimes player comes back and says, "Hey, here's the offer," and you say, "All right, well, good luck, congratulations." I mean, that's what happened with Tyreek Hill. You can say, "Hey, Tyreek, go find a deal for yourself. If you like one, we'll see about matching it. We'll see what happens." Tyreek Hill goes out, finds a deal. Okay, well, yeah, we're not going to match that, so can't match it.
Here's where I got to push back on the Tyreek Hill part.
Go for it.
That's all Drew Rosenhaus. It was all Drew Rosenhaus. Let's say that. I think Tyreek could get him more money, and Tyreek was like, "Okay, go for it." So
Kansas has, I think, pretty much every major lobbyist in the state working on this deal right now. I think if Missouri wants to keep the Chiefs, they have to get Drew Rosenhaus on their side.
Maybe. Rosenhaus will just try to get the team moved down to Florida. So let's not do that.
Well, since I already brought up the Tyreek Hill analogy, let's go to a question that I knew was going to be coming, and I knew a topic that was going to be coming up as soon as Justin Jefferson signed his contract this week, Nick. Will Tyreek Hill hold out and demand a new contract from Miami? I mean, was there anything more predictable than, and particularly with, speaking of Drew Rosenhaus, someone floating to my favorite blogger about how Tyreek needs to be taken care of?
I mean, look, here, your favorite blogger, I love it. I have no idea who you're talking about, Matt.
That also might have to be a T-shirt at some point.
My goodness, man. T-shirts, bumper stickers.
Coming up with them. We're
coffee mugs. I mean,
come on, we have to be entrepreneurs here.
We're spending money we don't have, man. No, but like, I mean, look, with Tyreek, I mean, I'm confused because Tyreek said he was retiring when his contract ended. So, I mean, under his, and this is before, he apparently maybe wants to hold out in a new deal. So maybe he meant whenever his contract expired in general, and we took him too literally. But yeah, I mean, with Tyreek, look, I mean, that guy, he likes money, and he proved that. He proved that he will take maximum dollar over winning Super Bowls like that.
He's got a ring. Does it matter? I mean, once you get your ring,
yeah, he could have 3, but he didn't want them. He wanted top dollar, and he wanted to go back down to Florida, so he was able to get both. And I mean, it'll be interesting because I know he made the comment he doesn't want to be. It doesn't help the team to be greedy or something like that along those lines and everything. And that's easy to say when you're making $30 million a year and you've already got that. I mean, look, it's not chump change. Like, here's the part that bothers me is like it wasn't chump change that the Chiefs were offering him. They were offering, the allegedly they're offering $25 million a year. So that's, for you and me, we wish we could get $25 million a year. For a lot of people on this, it's like, I'd take $25 million a year. Like, I mean, so it's not to play with Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, work for Andy Reid, have him call up plays for you. and to potentially be in a championship every year. That's how you build legacy. That's how you guarantee yourself Hall of Fame. That's what a lot of guys with the Patriots were able to do, and that's what a lot of guys with the Chiefs are attempting to do right now. And that's what Chris Jones ultimately ended up doing. Is he was able to get top dollar and he's able to push for it, but he's also still wanting to chase that legacy. If he really wanted top dollar, he would have went to the open market, but he didn't. He was fine with what got him to that specific number in the public view, and you go from there. But I mean, I would be surprised if Tyreek holds out. I don't know. I'd have to look up how many clients Rosenhaus has on the Miami Dolphins roster, because last year was about 12. So I'll be curious to see where it's at this year.
And I mean, it's nonsensical for a player who's under contract to hold out. I mean, you can hold out if you're Chris Jones and you're unsigned, but even, I mean, Chris holding out was kind of a little insane. It cost him some money. He did not get all of it back. Tyreek held out. He will lose money, and there's no chance that he's necessarily getting it back this year. I mean, at some point, Dolphins will probably just say, hey, get out there, because Dolphins don't really have the ability to pay him any more than they are. I mean, that's kind of is what it is. Mm-hmm. So, but I mean, I'm not saying Brett Veach was prescient and that he necessarily knew this was happening and going to be coming down the pike. But at the same time, I'm kind of like Nick. I mean, I think Brett knew this was coming down the pike. If you give him else a cookie.
Here's what I'll say. Tyreek is the most valuable player on the Dolphins. They've put themselves into a position where he is the most valuable player. So he has all the leverage with Miami. If Tyreek doesn't play, if Tyreek isn't in games, guess what? They are not good. Like, they need him in there. If he gets injured this year, they are going to fall off a cliff very quickly, because there's certain, like for example, we're going to take Justin Jefferson, Tyreek Hill. They're both in the same boat. They're both the most important player on their offenses for both teams, because they don't have quarterbacks that are elite like Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen. And for me, Joe Burrow. I know some people will disagree with that one, but all three of those guys, I think, are really good quarterbacks that help raise their wide receivers. Even if their wide receivers elite, they still help raise them to that level. So somebody like Tua needs Tyreek to give him the windows inside defenses to be able to attack. And then they put all this overwhelming speed to try to make life easier for Tua to get through his reads quickly. They built an offense for speed, so he can do 1-2 throw, 1-2 throw, read 1, read 2 throw. That's his system. That's what he does. The Chiefs took that away, and it wasn't just the cold that short-circuited it. It was the fact he had to read an entire football field and couldn't do it. So there's that. And then you take Justin Jefferson. He's got J.J. McCarthy up there that he's going to help develop and help elevate to a certain point. Then if McCarthy gets to that level, then McCarthy's going to get paid, and Justin Jefferson's going to be 29, getting ready to be 30, and potentially hit free agency at that point. So the smart teams know how to set it up with a veteran elite wide receiver to help elevate their quarterback. So hypothetically, if you had Alex Smith here, Alex Smith, you would have paid Tyreek whatever he wanted to help Alex Smith be the top player he can be. You paid Travis Kelce whatever he wanted to help elevate Alex Smith. With Patrick Mahomes, you're paying him to help elevate the other guys. So if Tyreek wants to hold out, I'm not going to pretend it wouldn't be entertaining.
It would definitely be entertaining.
But he has more leverage than people will give him credit for. But the Dolphins, I think, have to know who they're dealing with agent-wise. And he was always going to make sure his top client gets top money. But they need to wait and see what's going to happen with Jamar Chase, what's going to happen with CeeDee Lamb, what may happen with Brandon Ayuk. And because if you remember, the same time whenever Tyreek was potentially, when he was negotiating with the Chiefs at the Combine, and that was leaking out, then Devontae Adams signed his new contract, and then magically $25 million wasn't good enough anymore because it was now 30. So the market's been reset again, so that's not good enough anymore. So Miami going to elevate to that level, or is Drew kind of waiting on some of the other receivers to see if they get up to that level, if they get to that guarantee, and then try to really force the Dolphins' hand? But if Tyreek doesn't show up, it would be very similar to when the Chiefs had Jamal Charles magically hold out for a day or two at training camp. Then he famously came inside he walked inside the media tent, and he said, yeah, his Lambo ran out of gas, so he had to walk to St. Joe.
Yeah. Remember that well. Yeah, I mean, there's a business element to it too, just to put a bow on it. I mean, the way that his contract is structured, I mean, the Dolphins can't do anything. I mean, in that sense, it is the exact same thing with Chris Jones last year. If you're going to try and force your way out, I mean, Drew Rosenhaus would had to have seen this coming in March to be able to get it done. I mean, there's absolutely no way that you can move a contract like Tyreek's. The Dolphins can't afford to move a contract like Tyreek's right now. I mean, there is at least an out after this year, but Tyreek Hill is going to be playing for the Dolphins in 24. His question is he going to be a Dolphin in end of March of 2025? And I'm guessing there's a good chance not.
If he gets injured, there's absolutely zero chance.
There's that. Exactly.
And then where would he go, Matt? What would he do with his life football wise at that point?
Well,
let's hear from the comment section. If Tyreek is back on the market in 2025, where does he end up?
It will not be back in Kansas City. I can guarantee you that.
Matt, never say never, man.
If 25 million wasn't good enough for the Chiefs and Tyreek to stick together, then Chiefs certainly aren't paying 35.
Yes, I'm looking at the number right now. Yeah, they're 15.6 over already.
Yeah,
34 million. Tyreek, Bradley Chubb's 29, Aaron Armstead's 22, Waddle's 19, Jalen Ramsey's 26, and they get no cap relief there. Oh my goodness, they can get all Dolphins are in awful cap shape. Looking at this
oh yeah,
I mean Tyreek may not even be on the roster in general next year. After
they have cap. I mean, they do have an out with Tyreek after this year. However, he still has $22 million in dead cap after this year. I mean, if they tried to trade him right now, they have a $53 million dead cap hit they'd have to take. They're not taking that. They can't afford to take that.
and you know who you know who their biggest free agent is next year?
I forget. No, it's Tua. Thank you.
Tua.
Yes. Yeah.
Tua, when they're $15 million over the salary cap and they got to figure out a way to pay Tua, and Tua's agent's going to want anywhere between 40 to 50 million a year. So good luck with that one. Miami Dolphins have a mess on their hands. So what that kind of tells me, so what you need to look for now is, do the Dolphins pay Tyreek this year? Do they adjust his contract in any way, shape, or form to drop that number down to help him with Tua and to keep him on the roster? If they don't, then that means they sign Waddle to replace Tyreek Hill. And then it also means Tyreek's going to get afforded an opportunity to explore new ventures in the football world.
Yes. Dez, I missed your question earlier. I'm sorry you had to wait so long there, Dez, but one of our good members here. Any chance we see Worthy next week? I mean, it's hard. It's really hard to say. I mean, the Chiefs are absolutely going to be cautious with this. Let's see if we get an update. See if we see him Thursday. I mean, there's always a chance of that. But Andy Reid's going to get asked on Thursday. We will see what kind of response that he gives as far as that. I'm sure we'll be fairly non-committal. But Chiefs they're not concerned about June at all, Nick. I mean, they're not. So, I mean, it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. I mean, I think, we've talked about it. He's doing a really good job, I think, as far as, getting his mental reps and the work that he's been doing. He's been asking the right questions, apparently. I mean, would the work be good? Yeah. I mean, absolutely. It would help him. I think it would make sure that he's, a little bit more on solid footing once he gets ready to hit the ground in training camp. But remember, rookies, they're going to have that 3-day mini camp. When they get the report early, he'll have that to kind of catch up a little bit. So it's not the worst thing. I mean, one thing, you want that hamstring to be 100%. So Chiefs aren't going to push it if they don't have to. Let's see. Alex, I know you mean well. Nick is not going to like this question.
I just counted up real quick. Rosenhaus still has 12 clients on the Dolphins roster. I just went in the.
Oh, well, there you go.
In our place where you and I can access that to see who represents who.
Excellent. Well, there's a reason for that. Yeah, Nick, you're not gonna like this question as our segue here.
Hold on, first, why don't you think I'll like it? Let's get that out of the way first, since we're assuming things.
You're not going to like it because the pads haven't come on yet.
But that's only if you're asking about if offensive line or defensive line have
Okay.
improved, or
Okay.
how are linebackers hitting out there, how are running backs running through the holes, stuff like that.
I was presumptuous, Nick. I mean,
yeah,
I thought,
Matt, thanks a lot. Jeez, man,
I'm just piling on here. I am. Well, Alex, you asked a great question, and Nick loves it. So,
great job, Alex.
Surprise candidates you've thought about. Surprise cut candidates you've thought about. Alex's one of his would be wide receivers. Curious what you think, Nick.
I mean, I've said it before and I'll say it again. Like, you want to showcase Sky Moore and Kadarius Toney in training camp. Showcase them, get them a lot of catches, get them a lot of reps, make them look good. And if there's an opportunity that an injury happens and a team may want one of those guys, and you go ahead and you do that. But in terms of what you would consider a surprise cut, I just don't think there's anybody on the roster that you're like, boy, I just that may happen, and that'll be really stunning if it does. I mean, you and I kind of throughout the year, we have the tiers in our head of where everybody's at. So, and if there was going to be somebody that we're going to surprise do it, it would have already been done on June 2nd if they needed cap money, and they don't. So like they're good.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of the thing, is that it's, hey, is there somebody that you can just see dramatically underperforming and getting cut? I mean, sometimes that happens, but I can't see it. And I'm thinking from just a surprise cut standpoint, just looking at like the cap hits and a highly paid player. I think you'd have to get down all the way to the receivers. I mean, I think Justin Watson would be a stunning cut to me. I mean, I think he's one of my guys that I've got as 90% chance to make the team. I know that surprises a lot of people, but it's just, hey, I mean, he remains a strong complementary receiver. I mean, the Chiefs do put some value in flexibility. He's the one guy that they feel like can play all three positions in a pinch. If you had an injury, he can just go in for somebody immediately and keep things running, keep things moving. He's also 29. I mean, things can happen. I mean, the wheels can fall off quickly. I mean, if he's a half step slower all of a sudden this year than he was last year, I mean, that can be the difference. But he's also only making $2.9 million this year. So, to me, that wouldn't be a stunner. I mean, Kadarius Toney's in that category too, 2.5, Sky Moore 1.8. I mean, none of those would be terribly, surprises from a financial standpoint. But I think you're absolutely right. I mean, you're talking about, who are your trade candidates? I mean, who are the guys that, you have a glut at wide receiver. Not all of these players are making the team. You're going to have some injuries. So, it's okay. Can one of these guys, stand out? Can they show you that they need to make the team? Is there somebody who is going to underperform that maybe you're not expecting? I'm with you, Alex. I mean, I think if we're sitting on, I'm trying to remember the date for this year. It always moves, but let's say we're sitting here on August 31st, Nick, and it'll actually be earlier than that, but August 26th. I can't remember. And we're just talking about, wow, I can't believe that the Chiefs, waived that guy or traded that guy. I think it's a receiver, but it could be one of a number of receivers. But Brandon, yes, Nick and I will both be at training camp this year. I have the luxury and the pride and the joy of being there every single day. Nick occasionally has other duties that takes him away, unfortunately. So
you're like, unfortunately. I want you to suffer with me every step of the way.
Nick will be there like on his days off. So
no, I won't. Not anymore.
Not anymore.
Not anymore. I'm not driving up to St. Joe spending my own money anymore on that type of stuff. Maybe when I was younger, my truck was younger, but not now.
Well, Brandon, you will always see me. I aim to be there, the first one there. So hey, if you're one of the first ones through the gate, you can come over to the media tent, and you won't see me immediately because I'll be over on the rope line checking the players as they're coming in, so I can check off who's there and who's not there and doing attendance. But you can come over and see me. I will be glad to talk to anybody who wants to come by. So would love to see anybody at training camp this year.
And I will be super busy shooting video.
Nick, because that's one of the few periods that they get to shoot. So yes, Nick will be shooting. So
video
shooting. It's kind of like the zoo. Don't feed Nick during the shooting periods.
Video. A video.
Jesus, another one I saw over on the chat with Sterling earlier. So appreciate you double dipping. Do you see the Chiefs using all their cap space this season, Nick?
No, not necessarily for this year. I think what's left of it right now is if a surprise veteran became available, which it didn't happen on June 2nd. So I think they keep that available, and if they can sign one of the guys long term, they can, and they'll know what they want to carry over money wise into next year to help give them more cap room. So right now, anything that they have cap room wise, you're honestly just trying to keep so that you can potentially resign Creed Humphrey, Trey Smith, Nick Bolton, and a lot of other guys are going to be free agents next year.
Yeah, Spotrac has them right now at 14.7 is available cap space with the top 51. Once you go to the regular season, you're going to add anywhere from 5 to 10 million on that throughout the season. So, Chiefs could have anywhere from $5 to $10 million in cap space. Could be a little bit more, could be a little bit less. But yeah, that's the point, is that you've got 3 big free agents this coming off season, and that's what you're saving up for. I mean, that's your war chest right there for next year. So anything, I think that if you're any more cap that you're spending this year, you're spending on the big 3. I mean, it's Nick Bolton, Trey Smith, Creed Humphrey, one of those 3 deals getting done. Otherwise, yeah, you're rolling as much over that to next year because you've got some deals to get done, and the Chiefs need a lot of cap space. So yeah, this isn't a deal where if you're Brett Veach, you're like saying, hey, I got $14.6 million. I can go out and, acquire an $8 million player. No. I mean, you really, at this point, this roster is set. I mean, not saying that they couldn't make an acquisition, but I'd be very surprised if they added a big, costly player either through trade or through free agency. We got a question coming up here in a second about a player that they could add via free agency, but it wouldn't necessarily be a super costly one.
Well, and to elaborate on the cap space thing. So, for example, NFLPA has them at 17.9. I know Over the Cap has them at 17.2. And the Chiefs salary cap, if you've been keeping tabs on it, before free agency and before Chris Jones and before all that stuff, the Chiefs were at like somewhere between like 50 or 70 million in cap space for 2025. And if you look at it now, they have 16.4 estimated. So they're going to need every bit of that just to be able to do whatever they want to do next year. And that also includes Patrick Mahomes having a $66 million cap hit next year, Joe Tooney having a $26.9 million cap hit, Jawan Taylor having a 24.7, Travis Kelce having a 19.8, Chris Jones having a 34.8 cap hit, and that's it in terms of big cap hits. The Chiefs cap hits of 19 million or more are literally Chris Jones, Travis Kelce, Jawan Taylor, Joe Tooney, and Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah. And for next year, Joe Tooney, I mean, that's not a guaranteed.
Yeah, no, that's
they could save a ton of money walking away from Joe Tooney.
They get 16 million back if they play a game called It's Been Fun.
Yeah. Yes. And like I said, speaking of maybe spending some of that cap space, Sharon, likelihood of Donovan Smith signing, heard he cleared Chiefs from his bio, and Mina Kimes says many teams are looking at him. I mean, Donovan Smith's earned the right to go anywhere he wants to. He's got a couple of rings. He's done what he needs to do. And my expectation with him all this offseason was that, hey, he was probably going to wait until he gets a team that needs him, a team that's willing to give him a chance to start. That's going to be the situation. I don't know if there's anything connection. I mean, sometimes it can be, with players. I mean, good grief. I mean, sometimes players just leave stuff in their bios for social media for months and years until they realize that they left something in there. So maybe he's just getting to the point where he's like, okay, wait a minute, let me get back on this thing after the offseason and see what's going on. Oh, wait a minute, the Chiefs aren't paying me. I'm going to take that out of my bio and see what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, I know I get reportedly minicamp said that, but that's agent speak right there. Many teams are looking at him. They're watching with binoculars. Many are looking with binoculars. They're watching his film. Like that. Yeah, that's what an agent's supposed to say. They're making it to try to drum up interest. So when agents really get desperate, they send the player to Good Morning Football to have them do an interview to remind NFL teams that, oh, hey, he's available. Oh, yeah, he got a good interview. We should, call his agent, see how he's doing, see what his number is. So, look, I mean, Donovan has, one more week, and then mini camps around the league are done at that point, and then he can just kind of start to actually figure out his future. And, I mean, I believe there's a ring ceremony coming up sooner rather than later that, we'll see if he's at or not, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously this falls into a little bit of, things that are off the record during practice this time of year, but we did get a little bit on the record from Andy Heck last week, and I mean, hey, it's June, and there's nothing that as we've discussed, Upco, with the offensive line for sure. Until the pads come on, nothing matters. But I'd feel a lot better, Nick, if, your rookie second-round pick or last year's third-round pick was really, I guess, our fourth-round pick. I apologize with Wanya. I think I moved him up around. If one of those guys had really solidified the position by now. If not, then nope.
You got no clue. You can't until they put pads on. I mean, guys look different with shorts until they go.
I'm just gonna keep playing that. Everybody, I just learned how to do that tonight. I'm very excited about that. That's gonna pop up.
I saw that pop up, and I was like, "Oh my goodness, we're doing this!"
Yes, don't worry. Now I know how to do that. We're gonna have some fun with this.
Yeah, I mean, I think the chances of Donovan Smith, to me, just based on what I've seen, and this is saying what I'm saying, and I'll deal with the consequences. It's a little better than I would have thought 3 weeks ago, but it's also not like, to me, a guarantee. So, and the Chiefs have been pretty consistent all along, saying that they might wait until they get to August, until the pads come on, Nick, and see where they're at, and if they feel like they need to add anybody.
Yeah, I mean, I would, if I'm in their shoes, I'd leave the door open for Donovan Smith, and you kind of, if a ring ceremony, when the ring ceremony happens, have a friendly conversation, and you'll know where you're at in terms of where Kingsley's at and where Wanye's at, and where you feel comfort level wise before they do put the pads on, and where they're at athletically, where they're at technique wise, for the most part. So I think they would have their answer if they do need to add somebody at that point. So, I mean, if you are going to spend money, I think left tackle is probably the one spot that you still kind of keep open. You keep an open mind about potentially needing to add to that spot at some point before the season begins.
Yep, I'm with you right there. Brandon, getting back to a stadium question, do you think the Chiefs stayed because Norma was alive? I think Clark wants to go where the money is. I'll be honest. I mean, and there's maybe a little projection here for me, Nick, and I'm certainly taking a lot of what Clark has said over the years at face value. But I certainly got the sense that, I mean, and the fact of what Kansas City voters voted on in April was, to keep the Chiefs in Arrowhead for 25 more years. I truly got the sense all along. I don't think that this was some sort of master bluff 4D chess moment of any sort from Clark and from Mark Donovan. I think Clark and the Hunt family were very genuine in that they wanted to stay at Arrowhead as long as they could. I think there's Clark really, I mean, he always talked about his father's legacy and Arrowhead being that legacy. He spoke so eloquently just about what his dad thought about Arrowhead and about being the best, his favorite place in the world, all of that. I don't think that was an act, Nick. I mean, I think that was genuine. I think they wanted to stay there. I think there's part of Clark was fine. I've never sensed a huge amount of ego from Clark in this sense that, you know, I've never really gotten a sense that he feels like he needs to put his stamp on things. I mean, if he wanted to do that, I mean, you know, he could have moved the Chiefs out of Arrowhead last time around. I mean, you know, could have done everything he can, you know, make sure, well, I'm not going to commit to staying in Arrowhead another 20 years. No. And he could have just blown off Jackson County this time and said, I've just never gotten the sense that, you know, I think he was absolutely perfectly comfortable with staying in Arrowhead for 25 more years, which honestly, I mean, let's be realistic, would probably have taken him to the end of his active management of the club. I mean, by the time that the Chiefs were ready to move from Arrowhead in 25 years, it would probably be the next generation that would be finding a new home for the Chiefs. So I don't think that's it. I mean, I think this is clearly a case of, hey, Clark was willing to stay in Arrowhead. He wasn't willing to stay forever. I mean, 25 years was about the max that was willing to stay. It's about what the max of what the experts will say Arrowhead could survive with some renovations. But when that became a non-existent reality, I mean, I'm not going to say that the Chiefs are going to be reluctant to go somewhere else, but I mean, they're going to be pretty excited because they're going to get a new fancy house. So I think they'll miss the old one, but it doesn't mean they're not going to like the new place.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. Here's what part of it is. I think tradition and legacy means a lot to Clark, and that's the impression I've gotten from listening to him and covering him over the decade and a half now, or whatever the heck it is at this point. And I think that having the Chiefs and Hunt family name associated together, I think means a lot to him. Having the organization passed down to him means a lot to him, and and that staying in the Hunt family, I think is very, I just get the vibe is very big to him. And he's very big on tradition, just like the uniforms haven't been changed. They played at Arrowhead since, the 70s, and all that combined. I just think that if it were up to Clark in a perfect world, and Arrowhead could be renovated and taken care of in the way that it stays how it needs to for the next 50, 100 years, he would be all for that. And plus, part of it is whenever you have, whether you have potentially, whether you've had grandparents that have passed away or parents passed away, hypothetically, if you left Arrowhead, you're leaving a piece of for him, his childhood, his adulthood, part of his connection with his parents. And I think that's the part that really gets underestimated when you're talking about someone who does value legacy, who does value that. So when people say that, that comment there that Clark's all about the money, I think legacy means a lot more to him than people give him credit for.
I do not disagree, but okay, Nick, it's 8:15. You know what that means? Lightning round.
Yeah.
First lightning round question from Mango. Do you think it will be a dome? Yes, it is going to be a dome.
A climate-controlled environment allows them to make money off the stadium wherever it's at year-round. Whether it's concerts, monster truck events, you're not worried about if it's snowing or raining outside or anything like that. And I don't think you really would have to worry about a lightning delay at that point. So all that combined, I just don't think that you would have to worry about, and taking that factor out of it would be very big for if you're trying to be a profitable business.
Yeah, here's the thing. I mean, I know, Clark says he, has talked lovingly about playing football outdoors, thinks football should be played outdoors, all of that. Here's the problem is that now that if you're moving on from Arrowhead, then somebody else is going to be footing the bill to build this stadium, because Chiefs aren't putting in the majority of the money for a new stadium. Somebody else is going to be putting in the money, and whomever's going to be doing that is going to want Final Fours. They're going to want to try and get a Super Bowl. They're going to want to have conventions and concerts and all of this. So Chiefs, I mean, whether it's going to be a dome or not is kind of out of their decision at this point. It's going to be the decision of the entity, the government that decides to back this thing. And you would be absolutely crazy as a government to back a new stadium for the Chiefs that doesn't have a dome. So Alicia just cracked me up with this one, though. I had to bring that one up. I need to do a better job of just bringing up, great comments. But Alicia wants to see the Tyreek holding out just for our entertainment. And like us, I mean, it would be great. I mean, they should just put the Dolphins back on. Why am I blanking on it, Nick?
What put Dolphins
HBO.
back on Hard Knocks?
Hard Knocks. There you go.
No,
just do Tyreek Hill Hard Knocks.
What I'm here for, Matt.
All we need.
I am here to help you, Matt.
Pano, worried Xavier is injury prone. 2 non-contact injuries before the pads come on. Thoughts? I'm not familiar with the second one, but maybe I'm missing something. I mean, way too early. So no, I mean, and this time of year, soft tissue injuries, they are going to be super cautious. So I'm not going there yet. Nope, can't do that.
When was his other non-contact injury?
That's what I'm not familiar with the second one. So
why are you lying to me right now, Pano? Why are you doing
Pano,
that?
Maybe you saw something that we missed, but
what are you doing that to me right now?
And maybe we're something in college that I'm not thinking about.
Here's the reality about fast guys: they pull hamstrings. Sammy Watkins, Tyreek Hill. You name them all. They, when guys are fast, they pull hamstrings because they're running at an insane rate and they stop at an insane rate. And it's a very rapid movement, so that's going to happen. Even slow people pull their hamstrings. Like, even Matt and I, we might pull a hamstring, but it's for different reasons. So, here's my thing. Even if you're worried about anything, I guess I'm at a mindset like, what are we going to do about it? Okay, that's, it's happened. How do you work around it? I don't know. Maybe that's just where, because of the job I do, I have to problem solve. So I can't, maybe I've just developed that mentality over time that I'm like, yeah, no, it happened. All right. How do we work around it now? Let's go. Yeah. I mean, hey, your first round pick is a Maserati. I mean, even if it's not a high speed receiver, runs a 4.2, it's still a Maserati. That affects it a little bit more. I mean, you don't want anything to happen to that. You're the Chiefs. You're just going to be hands off. You're going to be. I mean, you're changing the oil 500 miles before you have to. I mean, you're taking care of Xavier Worthy. So, it's way too early for me to be thinking anything like that. Clifford gifted 5 memberships to all of you out there. So, 5 of you are getting memberships thanks to Clifford. That you are the best, Clifford. And on top of that, you did a super chat. So you get the next question, my friend. Super chat.
Super chat.
I'm here for the effect. I'm here for the voiceover effects.
Finally made it back for the live show. I'm glad you did. Are you guys worried at all about sack and pressure rates dropping with less sticky defensive backs coverage with Snead gone? Good question, because I mean the Chiefs have finished second in the NFL in sacks the last 2 seasons, Nick. And question, I mean, can you pull it off? Can you continue to be that kind of team for a 3rd year in a row?
Matt, I'm going to encourage you to go first on this because it's going to turn into a rant.
All right, then I will go first. And I mean, I am concerned about it. I will say that because, we saw 2021 with the Chiefs that sometimes sacks can be a luck thing. I mean, the Chiefs pressure rate, the pressure they were getting on the quarterback in 2021 really wasn't a whole lot different than it was in 2022, but they were just not getting the quarterback down. In 2022, they did. In 2023, almost the exact same rate as far as getting the quarterback down. I mean, there is sometimes a variance between pressure rate and actually resulting in sacks. Was Snead that piece? I mean, he's an important part of it for sure. There's no doubt about it. But then, to me, it's also, Nick, chicken and the egg. I mean, which comes first? Are you getting sacks because your defensive backs are playing great coverage? Are your corners playing great because your defensive line's getting pressure? I mean, I also give a lot of credit to Steve Spagnuolo and his assistants because they bring pressure from a lot of different directions. So that's one of the reasons why they have been so good as far as getting pressures and sacks the last couple of seasons. So I'm concerned, but I think they're going to be okay. But I just have questions about whether or not they can replicate for a third straight year the sacks that they've put up, because sometimes there's a little luck and a little noise in the data about how that. You could go out and have the exact same pressure rate this year if you're the Chiefs and not have the same number of sacks as you had last year.
All right, Matt.
Okay.
You ready?
We're ready.
Is the dance floor cleared?
Yes. We've turned off the lightning round sign.
Outstanding. Look, here's the first thing. I don't know what there is to worry about. They've won 3 Super Bowls in 5 or 6 years. Like what? I understand understand everybody wants them to do the 3-peat and everybody, and we're all rooting for it to happen, and you want to see history made and all that type of stuff and everything. But like, I don't know what else more you can ask from this team during this stretch and what they've done so far. So there's that part of that. Next part of it is, from a sack perspective, it's a combination of different things. First off is you have to force the quarterback to hold on to the football. So do you have a secondary that can give him looks that confuse him? Do you have corners or safeties or movement and speed overall in the team that can get to various spots that force them to hold on to the football? And then the other part of the equation is the offense able to score on a regular basis, or to put pressure on them to force them to have to pass the ball and to have to try to play catch up with, being down 14 points, being down 21 points, something like that, like a lot of the 2018 offenses that played the Chiefs had to do, or they would try to run the ball, then do that part of it. And then on top of that, the real question you have really more so is there a one tech that can help take up double teams to allow Chris Jones to get one-on-ones that can be demanding? That's the number one question you have. Who's going to be the one tech in training camp? Can they collapse the pocket? Can they push it back so Chris Jones can feast one-on-one? Then the second part of that is, can George Karlaftis raise his game yet another level to be able to be even more of a threat that teams have to keep a running back on or keep a tight end on? Guess what? You do that, that's one less receiving option. Then if Felix Anudike-Uzomah can raise up his level of game until Charles Omenihu comes back, or the two of them together at some point during the season can rotate in and out, then can they create that pressure, and can all that come together? Because if Felix can raise his game, if Karlaftis can raise his game, if the one tech can collapse, and if Chris can get just not having to be double teamed every single play, if that happens, then that can they get there in 2.5 or 3 seconds? If they can do all those things, then yes. Now the problem with L'Jarius Sneed is everybody keeps holding him up like baby Simba in The Lion King, that he was the reason that all of this happened, that he's the reason the defense was as dominant as it was. The reason the defense is dominant is because they were so athletic, and because they could do so many multiple versatile things. And here's the reality about L'Jarius Sneed. It was contract season. It was contract year. And as Terrence Bailey used to say, contract season's undefeated. And so for that, L'Jarius Sneed, in my opinion, played out of his mind. He played at a level that he may not even be able to duplicate again. And Tennessee Titans fans may be upset down the road and be like, that's what we spent for? No wonder the Chiefs traded him away. Wait, we gave up a third for this and all this money? Like, that may happen to Sneed down there. I don't wish that on him because he was a good dude, but I'm saying, like, that is a distinct possibility. So, like, the fact that everybody keeps raising him up as baby Simba, like, I'm like, guys, like, look, he was a talented player, but you got to remember, he had to take steps himself. He didn't become the L'Jarius Sneed of 2023 until contract year. Like, he had an evolution too. Tamari Connor's on that same evolution right now, that same step. Trent McDuffie's taking that same step up at that level. So that's why I'm saying, like, when Matt and I say how big of fans we are of Dave Merritt and how great Dave Merritt is, it isn't by accident. It's because the guy knows how to develop every single player with the skill sets they have available. So for something like this, you have to trust Dave Merritt. You need to trust Steve Spagnuolo and let them create a 3-course meal that can help you get to yet another, hopefully, AFC Conference Championship and maybe even Super Bowl. Is that going to definitively happen? Who the heck knows? Because injuries happen. Things unexpectedly can happen. A lot of things that happen in the offseason we never expected to happen. You just go along for the ride and see if you can adjust and adapt to what happens.
All legitimate points, and I mean,
Matt,
this.
Matt, how did I do on the dance floor?
People are enjoying the rants. I mean, let's. I mean, we're getting some rants LFG there, Nick. So I mean, people are enjoying the rant. And Gwen was one of those who got the membership from Cliff. So thank you, Cliff. Appreciate that. We got 6 brand new members because Cliff not only joined, but he got 5 memberships for other people. So that is super cool.
My question for Clifford here. I apologize, Matt.
Go for it.
Clifford, do you have a dog?
And is it big and red? Is that what you're asking?
I don't know. I'm just curious if he's got a dog, because that'd be awesome if he had.
You know, and to Clifford's point during your rant, and I mean, because he's talking about, you know, hey, is Karlaftis going to be a fast win guy? I mean, that's not been his strength. And hey, I get it with FAU. I mean, you know, show me state here. I'm never gonna tell anybody don't trust it until you see it. I think that's absolutely legitimate with FAU, even though I think he is going to be a more integral player this year. I think you're going to see a different guy this year because he's healthy. He's going to have that opportunity. I mean, as long as he can stay in good shape. And this is not a rant, Nick, but it is a hot take. And
hot take.
and I say this with the acknowledgement that of everything that you said about Clyde, about L'Jarius. L'Jarius played his butt off last year. Yes. He was fantastic. And honestly, I mean, the last 2 years, because even going back to the last half of 2022, I mean, that dude, you know, last season and a half was on another level. I mean, he should have been a Pro Bowl corner. He should have been an All-Pro corner. The last year and a half, that's the level that he was at. I think there's a chance he's a system corner. And I say that because I think he is the absolute almost just not mint in box because he's got a bad knee, but it's like if you could buy an action figure cornerback for Steve Spagnuolo's defense and for Dave Merritt, it would be L'Jarius Sneed. I mean, he might not be as good in another system as he is in this system. The Chiefs have done a really good job of going out and trying to find other players who fit what L'Jarius. I mean, I know some people pick at me because his 40 time wasn't quite the same, but Kamal Hadden and Spagnuolo and Dave Merritt. I guess it was Merritt. I guess they had the comparison between Hadden and Bashaud Breeland as being their comparison. I said it was L'Jarius Sneed because I mean they're just physically the same height, same weight, same 10-yard split. I mean, about the only thing was L'Jarius is a little bit stronger and a little bit faster, but that's also when we're comparing numbers here about workouts, we're also dealing with a guy coming off a shoulder surgery. So I'm not entirely sure that a fully healthy Kamal Hadden's not the exact same numbers wise as L'Jarius Sneed. I mean, I'm not saying he's going to be the next guy, but there's no doubt. I mean, the Chiefs are trying to replicate it by finding players that fit their system like L'Jarius did. So not a full-time rant, just a hot take that, you know what, L'Jarius might not be as good this year because he's not going to be in as good of a system. He's not, I don't think, going to be in as good of a defense. That might make an impact. Whereas there might be a guy this year that gets a lot of snaps for this team who's going to look really good because they got a good defensive lineup in front of him and he's got a lot of good teammates around him. So, but you know what, Nick? Your mileage may vary.
There it is.
Okay, we are a couple of years from this one, but are you guys okay with Karlaftis eventually at a 15 to 20 million APY? What would be too much? I mean, if Karlaftis becomes the player that you hope he would become as a first-round pick, I mean, you can bump that up, Nick.
Right now, you're needing Karlaftis to show that he can take over being the pass rusher on this team in 2 years. So you pay him that replaces Chris Jones's money. That's what you're hoping for in the next 2 years. So whether that happens or not, we'll see. This is a big year for Karlaftis to take yet another step to be able to kind of show that he can be the main focal point of the pass rush on this team. And so we'll see on that front, because here's my thing though. Like, the Chiefs, no matter what happens this year, got to continue to keep investing in D-line. Invest in a D and D tackle. Like, I think if I'm in the Chiefs' shoes, wide receiver, offensive lineman of some kind, depending, D tackle, D in every year. Invest in somebody in each one of those spots.
We were talking with Pano earlier, and he was referring to the ankle sprain that Xavier Worthy suffered in the Big 12 championship game. And I get that. On the other side, he did come back, obviously, and had an absolutely phenomenal combine just 2 months later. But that was a football play, Nick. Here's where I would say, Pano, and I wouldn't say that I have a concern that Xavier Worthy is injury prone. I will say that I do have concerns at his size that injuries might be more frequent. That's no guarantee. It's just when you've got a guy who is 5'10", that's a little slender, and depending on where he ends up weight-wise, 170, 175 is probably going to be his playing weight this year. I think the Chiefs would like to get him up to 180, 185, because then, you would maybe get a little bit fewer of those football injuries. He's going to be playing bigger guys. So, like I said, that's how I would probably frame it, Pano. I don't think of it as necessarily being injury prone, because, hey, that was a football play, tweaking a hamstring. Everybody tweaks a hamstring. So I'm not concerned about either one of those, especially even in combination. Isolation, I'm certainly not concerned. But, hey, is there a concern for his size? A lot of people will tell you no. And a lot of smart people will tell you that there's no concern. Texas coaches say he is one of the toughest guys, and you're probably going to hear the Chiefs at some point, whip out the old DeAnthony Thomas line. Toughest guy pound for pound on the team. We'll probably hear that at some point. Hey, let's watch it. But that's more my concern is Worthy, just standing up to the rigors of an entire NFL season at his size. I'm not concerned about injuries necessarily as being injury prone though. I don't think there's a history of that yet.
Lightning round.
Oh, let's see. I got to read faster, Nick. I was doing a really good job there. Oh, you did get 9 out of 10, I think, from Brandon on your rant. So,
no.
Clifford has 4 dogs, but we need to know if any of them are red.
Are any of them red named Clifford? I'm trying to think if there is a red dog out there in the world.
Truly appreciate Clifford. I hope you know we are having fun with you, because I truly appreciate your support tonight and everything. You had a great question, so that is not. We're just having fun. So I hope you appreciate it, because we appreciate you, my man.
Clifford was very excited. He mentioned it 4 dogs, 2 exclamations. I don't see a man that's agitated.
No,
exclamation points if you're agitated. Okay,
this is true.
You put all caps if you're agitated. Okay.
Okay, I apologize if I skipped any questions. I was looking for question marks. John, any news on if we're going to extend Creed, Nick Bolton, or Trey Smith's rookie contracts? Right now, the Chiefs have a priority to get at least a couple of those guys done. They definitely want to. Question is going to be, can they? Has there been any movement? Nothing that we've heard yet. So, I do think that there's a little bit of a Nick, as you would say, a runway between now and the beginning of the season to get something done. Typically, that runway closes after the start of the season. Players at that point usually are going to be in the, season's underway. I'm going to prove myself. Let's see what happens mode. Doesn't mean they'll be the same. Doesn't necessarily mean they'll shut down. Sometimes deals do get done, but I'm always of the philosophy that, hey, if it's going to get done, it's more likely going to get done right before the start of the season with an extension than it is after the start of the season.
I like how popular that word runway has become over the past year. Because I was looking back at my notes on Burks today when I saw the comments the Titans head coach made, and I'm looking there and I saw that he needs. I wrote on there about Burks. He needs a clear runway to get up to 10 yards. And for people that don't know, whenever I started using the phrase, I started using it when Top Gun Maverick came out. Because I just saw that, that clear runway, and I thought it was just the perfect imagery back then to be able to explain, like, kind of you just need an uninterrupted, clear path to be able to get to where you want to go, whether it's negotiating or a fun term to use when you're watching players and stuff like that. Because I know you and I had that conversation. I was like, that's become very popular and very trendy word.
It has been. Clifford says he doesn't mind the razzing. Like I said, I hope we were razzing you. We were just having some fun there, Clifford. But
where was he booed at? He was not booed here because you and I didn't do this Q&A together last year.
No, he's talking about elsewhere.
To you, Clifford.
and I'm with you, Clifford, because I think and I've thought for a while now that the toughest one to get done is going to be Trey Smith because of just the market of that position. We've talked about it, Nick. Trey Smith, if he goes out and has a healthy year and a good year once again, plays up to his level and stays healthy, he's a $20 million player. Trey Smith will make more money than both Nick Bolton and Creed Humphrey. And that's just the reality of the market. And if that's the case, I don't begrudge him, but it's going to be really, really hard to pay, Trey Smith that kind of money, especially because if you keep Creed, you're going to be making him the highest paid or one of the highest paid centers in the league. He's going to be making $15-ish million in that kind of ballpark. Maybe not that high. Maybe you can get him a little bit cheaper, but it's going to cost you. But I can't imagine putting $35 million a year into two interior linemen. It's just going to be a hard argument to make, Nick.
How dare you?
And I say this as being, somebody who thinks, hey, I want to see Trey Smith stay a Chief for 15 years and end up in the Ring of Honor. He deserves that chance, but it's a business, man.
Well, let's look at this twofold. Here's how the Chiefs potentially protected themselves. You went out and you drafted Hunter and you drafted Hansen. You went out and you got both of those guys to help develop now in case you lose somebody or financially you can't do it next year. And you also still have at least a little bit of leverage. If somebody does threaten to walk, you're like, well, we got such and such. They're looking great in camp. So, that's what you have to do. That's what you have to do. Where you're going to replace that potential cost that's why you drafted Kingsley, is so you're not paying a left tackle $20 to $25 million a year. Then also with Joe Thuney's contract, that may be where you may use Joe Thuney's contract to essentially create the cap hit for both of them in year one, and then you may have to plan to where Jawan Taylor's contract down the road here is where you slot in either Trey or Creed potentially for a handful of years. So it's kind of, I want you to imagine each year you're paying certain players this cap hit number, and it's like whack-a-mole. So you eliminated this spot, but then you got to use it over here. So you're just shifting it around from where you're spending that $20 million per year on a player. So I think the Chiefs have given themselves twofold to where they've tried to give themselves as much flexibility as possible to potentially pay both Creed and Trey. But like you said, Matt, if there is somebody that I'm mentally bracing for to be able to get $25 million on the market, it would potentially be Trey. The key for him is staying healthy this year. Showing that ankle injury he had a couple of years ago doesn't bother him in any way, isn't lingering in any way. And then him not having as many holding penalties. Because those are the three things that are going to get used against him. And I don't remember where I don't know if he's been to a Pro Bowl yet. Because that stat will be used as well against him in the free agent market. But there will be a team, if he does hit the market, there will be a team easily willing to pay him anywhere between 21 to 25 a year. Just depends on what type of year he's having. But the teams that want to lessen that will argue those points I just said.
And to your point, man, I'll definitely underline the staying healthy because, he had that sprained ankle early last year, and it was never 100% after that. He really gutted through some games too. with that ankle. I mean, I know that was tough, and you know what? And then sometimes when a guy's starting and playing and not coming out of the lineup, don't talk about it that much. But I think that was definitely a contributor to the penalties going up last year. If he stays healthy, the penalties go down. Yeah, I mean, that's just, and I haven't looked at the market yet to see what other guards could be out there. I mean, that can obviously impact the player's value too. If he ends up there with some other top-notch guards, that could be a problem. But I mean, he's also got the intangibles, and that this is a guy you want on your team. This is a leader that you want on your team. And there's a lot of teams that should. I mean, especially if the Chiefs three-peat, there should be a lot of teams out there that say, wait a minute, we want this guy with 3 rings. Yeah, let's get him. Last call. If anybody else has any more questions, sneak them in there at the end. We'll try and get these last ones. But Joe, what key players can the Chiefs afford to lose and still win? For example, Kelsey, Pacheco, Chris Jones, McDuffie. Notice you don't list Mahomes there because that's the one that would be like, okay, Chiefs are a 500-ish team, maybe 10-win team if something happens to Mahomes. But, I mean, we saw a little bit of this, Nick, because we saw the Chiefs lose their home opener last year without both Chris Jones and Travis Kelce. So I would put those both at the top. I would have Chris Jones, Kelce, McDuffie, and Pacheco. I could swap Kelce and McDuffie as far as the 2 and the 3 spot, but I will add a caveat here, which is that I am less concerned about the Chiefs having to play a game without Travis Kelce this year compared to last year, because I like Jared Wiley that much. I mean, I mean, you put Jared Wiley in week 1 last year against the Lions, and I mean, and wait, granted, Upco, but Chiefs might win that game. I don't know.
Yeah,
it was that close of a game.
Yeah,
You don't even want to think about that, do you?
I don't want to put the negative energy out of the universe, but somebody wants me to. No, I do think you're hoping with the additions you made with Worthy, with Hollywood Brown, with like you said, with Wiley, and then also potentially Remigio. You're hoping each one of those guys takes that burden off of the necessity for Kelce to have to be as dominant at his age as he's been. And you're hoping to take away some of those reps for him and some of that wear and tear that he's had. And then obviously Rashee Rice as well. You're hoping all of that combined can take a lot of that away. So, I mean, you don't want to lose any of them. And Chris, I think losing Chris would really disrupt your pass rush. Losing McDuffie is going to make you have to move around a lot of stuff in terms of coverage and secondary wise. And, the Chiefs can adjust accordingly if they need to, but each one would hurt. But Pacheco's the one that, you just aren't sure what else you have at running back right now, to where what you get with him, the physical running style he has, and the chance he may be able to exploit some of the light boxes this year to be able to run on teams and do some ball control if they need to.
Yeah, just because I list Pacheco as number 4 on that list it's not a Pacheco hating. It's just that those other 3 guys are really important too and really, really good. And I mean, the running back position, even though I think Pacheco is clearly the best Chiefs running back that they've got, they have thrown some numbers at it. They've got some potential there. So, Red Hood Chief, what's the latest news on last year's media darling Justin Ross and this year's breakout candidate FAU?
Tom Melvin, Matt. What about Tom Melvin clip?
No,
you want the Tom Melvin clip?
Until they put pads on. I mean, guys look different with shorts until they go.
I'm just gonna have it ready. Oh, this is so perfect.
I mean, we've only seen the 2 practices. Justin Ross had a nice catch in one, and I think 1 catch in the other. I mean, he's where I would say. I mean, he's in that second tier. I mean, I don't know what else I can say. I mean,
okay.
Anytime I talk about Justin Ross, I make people angry.
Okay. Look, here's what I'm saying. Here's what I'm really excited about. It has nothing to do with this question right now.
Yes.
Now that I've learned that I can cut video clips together for us for the show, and you
Yes.
can tap on them and hit them. I feel like Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly and Step Brothers whenever they put the bunk beds together, because we have so much more room for activity. Somebody said I sound like John C. Reilly on the comment section this past week. Anyways, it just works out really well. I'm actually really excited about this feature, Matt. We can take this Q&A to a whole new level now.
Okay, we absolutely can. There's nothing wrong with that.
Okay, now the question. Sorry.
Yes.
What's the latest news on? Hey, here's the thing on Justin Ross. Like, for him, I think one, getting lined up in the right spot will be perfect for him, and then also just kind of like it's about getting separation, and like that's the biggest thing that I think. He's got certain routes I think he can run okay, and he can run in the offense. I think there's part of the offense that isn't really a part of his game and who he is as a receiver. And so I just feel like there's certain packages for him that they can work him in right now. But then there's other parts of the offense that require speed and separation. And I don't know if that's necessarily his style. And I think that's a big reason why Kelvin Benjamin wasn't successful in Kansas City either. I'm not trying to say they're the same player, but they're similar in size and stature. So when some people say, well, why didn't the Chiefs get this tall receiver or that tall receiver? Like, I know there's a time where people wanted Hakeem Butler, and like he just wasn't a quick twitch athlete. He had great size, but he wasn't a quick twitch athlete. And like just those, there's just a certain athletic ability, in my opinion, in the cone drill and going down the line and catching and rotating and just overall speed that I think collectively are like what you need to be successful in the Chiefs West Coast scheme. Personally,
I can't disagree with that. And when it comes to FAU, I mean, that is Tom Melvin for sure, because we won't know for sure until late July. Once the pads come on, we'll know where he's at. But hey, he wasn't on the field at this point last year, so it is such an upgrade from last year at this time.
Why would you say it when you can let Tom Melvin say it for you?
We got no clue. You can't until they put pads on. I mean, guys look different with shorts until they go.
I love it.
There you go. That's all. Says it all. Red Hood Chief. Mango, was Nico Remigio still getting reps with the first string offense when Hollywood was there? This kind of tinkers it a little bit into the gray area.
Don't answer it, Matt.
I can say something.
Don't do it.
I can say
Don't go across that line.
This is as far up to the line as I'm willing to go, and I will just say that hey, it's just like training camp. On any given day, there's probably 8 to 10 receivers who rotate in that position. So draw your conclusion from that. Since technically that it may not like the rule, but I have agreed to follow it as far as the Chiefs with their rules for closed practices and what's on the record and what's off the record. And that's as close as I can. I'm willing to get to the line, Nick.
I'm proud of you. Now I can let you borrow sunscreen because you'll definitely be out there to watch this week.
Jackie, could Chiefs potential play the comp pick game with so many free agents coming up? I know it's not guaranteed, but why sit out the high end of free agency to get a 3-4? I mean, always can, but I mean, I think that, it depends on the player. I mean, in the situation, I mean, you're only going to be able to trade a player that you have control over. So, with the free agents that the Chiefs have this coming off season, I mean, you're going to be dependent upon free agents, comp picks for probably if you are going to lose a couple of them because you only have one franchise tag.
Here's what I'll say about comp picks. That's another hot button for me. We always talk about comp picks, and I mean they're the most hypothetical thing possible because all I heard for a year and a half was, "Hey, the Chiefs can let Orlando Brown walk and get a comp pick for him." Guess what? They signed Jawan Taylor for the same amount. So a 1.5 year discussion was just wasted energy for all of us, because here's the reality of Brett Veach, and this is what I hope. If there's one thing you take away other than baby Simba, apparently, which is hot in the comment section, is that Brett Veach is going to aggressively go tack what he needs to when he needs to. If he feels like that player out there is going to be the difference between them having a really good chance to get to a championship, he's going to aggressively go make that move. He's not going to sit around. He's not going to worry about, well, that comp pick can go here and that. No, that's not Brett Veach. Brett Veach is not about that life. Brett Veach is about, he's not trying to be the best at exercising. He's trying to win, okay? So he's not trying to be the best at getting comp picks. He's trying to win. So, I mean, look, at the end of the day, like if it happens, okay, it happens. But I just don't think that they're the Baltimore Ravens of the world, where they're just gonna wave bon voyage to everybody and hope they get a whole bunch of third-round comp picks in return. Don't get me wrong; it'd be great if we get a whole bunch of third-round comp picks, but I just don't think that the Chiefs are ever going to be at that level like people hope.
Here's the great thing, Jackie, is that Tom Melvin was talking about tight ends you can't tell until the pads come on, can literally apply to anybody. It is most appropriate to offensive and defensive line, because those are the guys for sure that there's nothing you can tell for the most part this time of year, except whether or not a guy can, not fall down. But yeah, applies to anybody. It's the great thing about it. Although I love the fact that talk about, being the best at comp picks is kind of like, being the best at exercising. So
That's what I'm here for. Okay?
I like the way you were going there.
TV shows, so I can
Okay.
make a lot of references.
You want positive thoughts, so Mitchell brought you the positive thoughts. Why can't Hollywood and Worthy both have 1,000-yard season and 10 touchdown seasons?
Because there's only one football. I
mean, that is the drawback.
The defenses are not gonna want to get beat deep. So I mean, the Chiefs are gonna have to be creative at times with it. And where they're going to have to counter it is they're going to have to run the ball. So that's going to take away opportunities to be able to throw it at times. So totally get what you're saying in terms of like, hey, it'd be great if this could happen, just like Madden numbers and everything. But I just don't think NFL teams want to give up explosive plays. So they'll take all the paper cuts over the middle and hope you make mistakes. And that's part of the reason the Chiefs have been able to be successful over the past couple of years, is because the Chiefs zigged when the league zagged. And they're going to do it again here in a little bit.
Yes. I mean, we don't know. We don't know how the Chiefs are going to deploy these guys. We don't really know how they're going to get defended this year.
Here's the fun fact. They don't definitively know either. But here's what makes the Chiefs, and why they've had the success they've had, is they are able to adjust throughout the season to what their roster is capable of. Right now, this whole time is finding out what is this roster capable of, showing bits and pieces of it early on in the season, building up the younger guys you need to help you contribute down the road, and then take everybody to church in the Sprinter van whenever it matters come December and playoff time.
There you go. Well, I think we've exhausted all the questions. If there's anybody I missed, I apologize.
Last call.
Might not have got your question if it repeated one earlier, because I know we had some stadium questions too, and kind of talked about that a couple of different times, and especially right at the top of the show. So if you had a stadium question from me, you can go back and catch that. I will also make sure that I'm doing a better job now, because I'm trying to become at least. I don't know if I have the skills to become a professional podcaster, Nick, but I'm trying to be at least a polished podcaster. Mm-hmm. So I'll get the chapters in there and everything. So if you want to talk about it and look at a specific topic that we talked about, try and get that up soonish. So.
Hey, and if you haven't listened to 41 is the Mic already, you should download it before the new one comes out. Super late Thursday night, whenever Matt and I do record another one, and then it takes 2 hours for me to render the video, and doesn't get out until after midnight. So, and Matt, I even left a promo for you.
Oh no, I need to play this one.
No, you can do it whenever we're done. Like, I mean, it's up to you. It's up
Okay.
to you if you
I don't
wanna-
know what it is. I mean, I mean, just so people, who have not gotten a taste of the pod, I can't imagine there's anybody here who's not gotten a taste of 41 is the mic, but I kind of want to see what this is now.
It's all things Chiefs right here. 41 is the mic, a Chiefs podcast on your home of the Chiefs. Listen now wherever you get your podcasts. Also available to watch on KSHB 41's YouTube page.
Yes.
That runs on Sunday Sound-Off now, too, just FYI.
Woohoo!
How many podcasts you know on that?
We have our own promo. I love it.
How many podcasts you know getting promos on TV right now?
I don't know of any. So I don't know of any. Thank you. Oh my goodness, I love that. I'm ready to go through a wall now, Nick.
Don't do it. Don't do it. You won't be able to go to practice on Thursday. You'll be hurt.
Well, it would have to be one of those, rubber Kool-Aid walls. Me and Andy Reid. So,
Oh boy,
me, Andy Reid, and Kool-Aid Man. So, well, there you go. So you can, if after this, if you hadn't checked out 41 is the mic, you got that. We will be back in the stream Thursday night, Friday morning for sure. On your drive into work, you'll be able to listen to 41 is the mic and get everything you need from OTAs. And then we haven't really talked about next week yet. I mean, for minicamp.
Mm-hmm.
We'll have to figure that one out. But on the great thing is that we've got Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Tuesday we'll have the Q&A, so we can talk about.
That would mean I'd have to come out there on an off day. I don't know if I'm willing to do that.
Well, that would be if you have an off day. I mean, that would be kind of crazy. So
I don't know. We'll see, Matt. We'll see.
Wednesday
I'll definitely be there, and Thursday I'd be there, and then there's
and we'll definitely get you something. So.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and so thanks everybody for the questions. Thank you, Clifford, for the super chat and for the memberships. And so hope the 5 of you who got those memberships, that is awesome. Hope you enjoy them. Any other thoughts, Nick? Anything you want to share?
Tom Melvin has one more comment for you, Matt.
We got no clue. You can't until they put pads on. I mean, guys look different with shorts until they go.
And I mean, I don't know if we really talked about this on 41 is the mic, but so you're in the back of the room at your camera. Yeah. I'm in the front row on the right. So I'm
shooting that exact video you're seeing.
You shot that video. I can't see you. You're behind me. Yeah. But the moment that Tom Melvin said that, I mean, I just about died laughing because I was just like, oh my. Nick is going to play this clip until the cows come home because this is just everything that he needs in his life.
It's not everything I need in my life, but I was getting criticized because because people here's the thing: everybody wants an opinion all the time. They want you to analyze everything, and potentially some people want you to tell them how they should feel about something. Some people are just curious to get thoughts, but then some people just want you to put it out there so they can tear it to shreds. And maybe they had a bad day, and you're going to be their punching bag. So as your famous trademark says, Matt, what's that one?
Your mileage may vary.
Nailed it.
Well, that says it all for me, Nick. I mean, I co-sign that one.
All right. Well, when you play that promo one more time to officially walk us out, let's light this candle.
All right, everybody. We will see you on Thursday on 41 is the mic and back here next Tuesday. And with that, we will play you out with the new promo.
It's all things Chiefs right here. 41 is the mic, a Chiefs podcast on your home of the Chiefs. Listen now wherever you get your podcasts. Also available to watch on KSHB 41's YouTube page.